how I first had my close relationship. So many people have heard the story, but in case someone hasn't, we had some very close friends from Russia, a young couple that moved to Chevron when they got out of Russia, and they were able to move to Chevron. And this is how we got very, very involved with Chevron. So my husband wanted to help them, and he set up a moisid of, a tax-free moisid of helping to help people from Chevron, and this was 14 and a half years ago. He went to a Kever in Crown Heights, gave him a very generous donation, but said he wanted to use this money to inspire youth from Crown Heights. So, okay, how do we fit it all together? So the next day already, we had 7 girls from Crown Heights who were ready from the ages 16 to 23, who were ready to go to Chevron and be inspired, and they were also happy to, whatever, bake a day camp, wash dishes, whatever needed to be done. So they came, and they did that, and then what they really wanted to do 14 and a half years ago was clean up the Kever of Menucha Rochel, which was an Arab garbage dump at this time. I mean, there was horrible garbage. They'd burned tires, the Arabs had burned tires on the Kever. There was horrible garbage. There was a 2-room building, a very old building that had been like this is the ancient cemetery, that had been like with the Kever Kadisha work. They had no electricity, no water. And these girls were they spent 3 days with gloves. Girls from Crown Heights, when they were like dead rats. I mean, it was horrible, really horrible. They washed down the Kever with bleach. And since there was no water and no electricity, it was about, depending how fast you walk, let's say a 10-minute walk to where our friends were living in Tel Rameda. And that's, so they did it in 3 days. It was done. It was clean. The rooms, the building was clean. We were going to open up the International Women's Learning Center at Menucha Rochel's Kever the next day. And our friends from Tel Rameda, they each gave a class in the morning and inside these little rooms. Then we had to go back to their house, of course, for bathrooms, for lunch. We came back again after lunch. And it was very hot. This was in Tammuz. And there was certainly no fans, and there was no air conditioning. So we decided we would sit around the Kever because it was under a fig tree. There were stones, and it seemed much, the place to be was outdoors. And so I gave my little class there, and then my neighbor Miriam Rhodes, she came. It was her first time there in Chevron. She hitchhiked in, and she was about to give her class. Now, when we were there were 2 soldiers that were about 8 feet above us, like on the street level, who would walk back and forth, and they were kind of looking after us. And Miriam said that before she began, she wanted to teach a story about Rochel Imenu, a song about Rochel Imenu. Because Menucha Rochel, initially her name was going to be Rochel. Rochel was the name in the Alter Rebbe's family. She was the Alter Rebbe's granddaughter, Mittler Rebbe's daughter, and her name was going to be Rochel. Now, not everybody knows this, but Menucha Rochel was born on that Yahrtzeit Kislev in 1798 when the Alter Rebbe was released. It wasn't like a year later or something. It was that day in 1798, that first Yahrtzeit Kislev. And they would name her Rochel, but it was such Menuchas HaNefesh to the family that the Alter Rebbe was released that they named her Menucha Rochel. That's where the name comes from. So Miriam was going to teach the song, and she said that we should go back into the rooms for her to teach the song because it would be Kol Isha because of the 2 soldiers. And I said, no, there's so many of us. There's a heter. I know there's a heter. Everybody does it. We don't have to go back. We can stay here. And she said, no, we have to go in because she has a beautiful voice and she's going to be singing to teach the song, and it's Kol Isha. And she wasn't giving up. I hate to give up myself, but I could see she wasn't giving up. So we started walking back to these little rooms, which meant walking about 10 feet, climbing a few steps, etc. So as we're doing that, and Miriam was still by the cave because it was her first time there, and this was 14 and a half years ago, and she had a palm pilot that her husband had given her with Tehillim, and she was very excited. She wanted to say one more kapitel because she came much later than the rest of us. So some of the girls are walking, and then the Arabs start shooting at us. So, it's like it's so loud. You kind of need to be a little more quiet, and the bullets are hitting the ground, and the soldiers are saying, run, run, run. And we run into this stone building, and in the stone building, you're quite safe. The bullets can't go through the stone. But where's Miriam? She's not with us. What's happening? And the soldiers were like shooting back, and it's very funny because people's mothers started calling from Crown Heights and no one is going to tell their mother that they're being shot at by Arabs in Chevron, and everyone's, oh, we're fine. Say hello to Miriam, we're hi. So no one, that later people told their mothers, but not during this dramatic moment. So the shooting stops, and so where's Miriam? What's happening? And she'd actually been wounded by passing shrapnel, bullet, whatever. So her blood was falling on the Kever. She later went for a CAT scan, and she just had to take antibiotics. If you ever hear of somebody saved by a millimeter, this was mamish saved by a millimeter. Like she just was scratching, and she actually has souvenir shrapnel. It's very tiny. If you know it's there, it's a tiny scar. And that day, the Daf Yomi was Kol Isha Erva. So that's why she won the bet. Now, if we had listened to me and we'd all been sitting there where the bullets were ricocheting, it wouldn't have been a happy story at all. So I'm actually the villain in the story. She's the heroine. She saved us all. And so this was, I think, her holy blood. And she said the only thought she had was that Jewish blood is being spilled. Like, I actually saw her blood falling on Menucha Rochel's skin. We actually have a photo. So, right, you were there. So this changed Jewish history. So they put an army base on the Arab apartment building that's next to the Kever. That's the first thing that happened. The second thing was that Danny and Batsheva Cohen became the first shluchim in downtown Chevron. And Danny is blessed with the ability to know how to speak to people. Not everybody has this tremendous, it's a very rare ability. He was able to get water and electricity into those two rooms, which was incredible. Like this, a bathroom and sink and electricity, unbelievable. He made a kollel there. And then next to it was a pile of rubble. And this pile of rubble had once been a building, but now it was just like a 2 feet high pile of rubble. And he said it's dangerous, the rubble could fall down on someone's foot. Could he shore up the rubble? And because he knows how to speak with people, he got permission to shore up the rubble. And from the shored up rubble, if you've been there, he made a beautiful one-room stone shul, handmade with a dome, and we never could make a Chanukah Sabayas because you're not allowed to build in Chevron. They don't let Jewish people build, so it's not considered a building, it's just considered shored up rubble. But it's very nice, and that's where we go when we go to learn Menucha Rochel's Kever. And yes, so that's basically, and then we started when we moved to Eretz Yisrael, which is our 13th year living there. We started having learning there at the Kever, and we have these musicians that come, and there's a beautiful lunch that's made by a holy woman in Chevron, and there's babysitting allowances, and for the ladies that come, it's like a tremendous vacation. One lady plays the keyboard who knows Nigunim, tremendous. Another lady plays the harp. And the soldiers are always quite amazed because they're like having their fingers on the trigger and walking back and forth, and we're sitting outside davening harp music. It's like a whole, people are, it's to be relaxed. There's nothing like being relaxed at Menucha, to get the Menucha, the real Menucha there. And when you're there, it is relaxing. It's like you just feel, Menucha Rochel, this is the place. Okay, so I actually am doing some fundraising for this learning program, and if there's a little plate, we could pass it around. There's no pressure. You can give a small donation and know that you have a part in bringing, but don't feel any pressure. Just if you want to have some schus to bring joy to the ladies that learned there at Menucha Rochel's cave. We also have on her Yahrtzeit, right? This is on her Yahrtzeit. I'm sure great blessings will come to one and all. So we have a secretary here, Shalom Nadler. If you forgot to bring along your large bills, you can always stop by or mail it to Shalom Nadler on Union Street. So I think we should have, to close, so if anyone has any questions or thoughts, and then we'll just have a girls' niggin event. So does anyone have anything they want to share? Yes, I pick you.
Is there a story about Menucha Rochel that you'd like to share with us?
Well, I actually just read a story that there was some Arab who was like really harassing the people and the Jewish people in Kever. This is like the 1840s. And then his wife was about to give birth, and she was having an extremely difficult birth, and everyone said, like, Menucha Rochel is known to give brachas for births, you have to go, and he really didn't want to, but then, he was, I guess he must have liked his wife, she was, and he went, and Menucha Rochel said, if you promise that you won't bother the Jews in Chevron anymore, I'll give your wife a bracha. And he had no choice, he agreed, and his wife gave birth to a baby boy, and he no longer harassed the Jews in Chevron. There is a true story. And now we have to walk between the bullets, because she walked between the raindrops, and we're going to continue walking between the bullets.